Okay, I'm going to go through the whole parameters, variables, globals, locals issue. Alright, I'm going to go through the whole thing using this question, because a few people have requested this. So, this question from Winter 14, okay, and it's paper 2, version 2. Okay, Nathan wants a single player to play against the computer. He uses the built-in function random to simulate the computer's choice of column. The function returns a whole number in the range 1 to n inclusive. He writes the procedure get column to input the next move either from the computer or player B. The procedure has two parameters which are passed either by reference or by value. Okay. So we've got the procedure here, alright, this is the name. Okay, we'll start with the identifier. Okay, so we've got get column. We're going to use two parameters. Normally for parameters you would just see a single letter like an X or a Y or something. So this is slightly different. Okay, we're actually calling the parameters player. That's the first one. And that is going to return character, a number, which is going to return an integer. Okay. So the question asks, state which method of parameter passing, is it by reference or is it by value for each, the player and the number. Right. So to illustrate this, it's probably easier if I show you, before I go through this, I'm going to show you a program in written in Pascal. So we're going to go to Delphi. Actually, I have it. Yeah, okay. So we're going to go to Delphi, right, and I'll talk through this program. So we've got examples of parameters, local variables here, global variables, and I'm going to illustrate the difference between the two types of parameter passing in this question. Okay, we'll start up here. So these are your these are the globals up here, right? That we all start with. Okay, first things that we use. So these variables are, so we've got number 1, number 2, both integers. These are locations in the computer's memory, okay, which are the main two, they're going to be used for the main two values that we need for our program. Okay, so you can see that down here we're using number 1, number 2, number 1, number 2, number 1, number 2. Okay. Now, anytime we affect or make changes to these, right? These are updated. Whoops. These variables are updated in the memory immediately. Okay, so we're all okay with that. Now next we have our procedure, which is here if we ignore the comment. So this is like basically, okay, this is an example of a routine, right? That is self-contained, right? This can be dropped anywhere. That didn't really work. Anywhere and be reused again. Okay, because we have, well, I'll go through this first. So we've got another variable here, alright? Now, because this is not referred to in our main program, we call this a local variable. Okay, so we've got global variables up here. We've got our local variable here. So this is only needed for it only has local scope, as we call it, right? It's only needed for this procedure. Okay, why is it needed? Right, this is an example of parameter passing. Okay, we've got 3 locations, we need to pass 2 numbers. Right, if I didn't have a temporary location, okay, we've got number 1, we've got number 2. Right, if I was to, let's just say in here we've got a 6 and an 8. If I wanted to swap these 2 numbers, which is what we're going to be doing, if I move this to here, okay, then, or if I assign, let's say, because I'm not moving, right, this is still going to be 6, okay. So if we didn't have temporary, let's just say I'm assigning N1 to N2, alright, so this becomes 6, but we've lost the 8. Okay, so there needs to be somewhere in the middle to deal with that. I'll put a temporary variable down here. Okay, 6 can, let's say for example, go to here. 8 can go to here, and then 6 can go to there. So it works. So that's why we need a temporary variable. Okay, so that's being used here. Now, what about the parameters? I'm just getting a colour. Right, so our parameters are here and here, right? 2 parameters using the data type integer. Now these are a little bit like placeholders. Like, if you've ever seen anyone designing a website before, you can sometimes put boxes like this with a cross in to just say, okay, an image is going to go there and we're going to have text around it. I don't know what the image is, but I'm just sorting out the structure for my design. That's kind of a similar story to here. Alright, so we're going to use a value here. We don't know what that value is. We're going to use a value here, and they're both going to return, they both need to be integer. So let's move on. Right, in our main program we use a function called, here it is, okay, so we're going to call a function called swap. And we're going to use number 1 and number 2. Now, we're basically saying that we want number 1 to replace n1 and number 2 to replace n2. So after the function call, your arguments here can be any variable you're using. So if we moved it into another program, we might use another 2 variables, right? But you just need to be aware of what's going on here, because these obviously need to be in the right order. Okay, so number 1 is going to get is going to be used up here. Number 2 is going to be passed to there, okay, from the function call. Now we've got 2 ways that these values will be affected. Okay, so we want this procedure to swap the 2 numbers. Okay, and then down here we're going to output the values. Right, so we're going to read in 2 numbers, give us the order, swap them, and then give us the new order. Now at the moment these are value parameters. Okay, so we're passing by value, right? We're copying whatever is in here and pasting it in here and here, as opposed to actually using the reference. It's a little bit like if you're using a spreadsheet, okay, and you have all if you're using cell references, which are the names of the cells, it's the same thing. These are names of variables. Cells are you can think of a cell in a spreadsheet as a location in a computer's memory. If you're using variable names and you change a value somewhere, and everything updates. But if you're putting just numbers straight into a cell, they'll never change. If you're putting static numbers in, and that's what we're doing here, because these are, we're passing by value at the moment. If these were variable parameters, we would have a var at the beginning there. So how does that affect this program? Well, like we said, we're just copying the number up here. Alright? Now the problem with that is all of this is going to work, but the problem is that n1 and n2 are not passing the values back, they're just being used up here. Alright? So the thing works, but when we run it, we're going to get the same order. So let me show you in Delphi. There's our parameters up here. If I run this and I put in, we'll use the same numbers, a 6 and an 8. The original order is 6 and 8, the new order is 6 and 8. If I make these variable parameters, run it again, using a 6 and an 8, they get swapped. So, if that all made sense, for this to work, so this is wrong basically. We need to have, these need to be passed by reference. Okay, so that, just to clarify, passing by reference, anything that's happening up here automatically updates our globals. Okay, so for example, as soon as we assign n2 to n1 here, right, that is going to update our variable if we're using variable parameters up here. Otherwise, we're only changing the value of n1. Okay, So that is changing that. It's not linking to the globals here. So this must have VAR for this particular program to work. Right, back to the past paper question. So we're asked to find out we've got two parameters, player and number. Which one is being passed by reference, which one is being passed by value? Well, player, that is a is a value, that's static. If player equals a, right? We're making changes to number, right? We're assigning a value to number. Okay. So number is being changed. Player is not. So we can sort of derive from that the player is being passed by value, and that number is being passed by reference, because we're changing things to number. We're not changing it, we're just using this value for player. We don't want it to change, but we're going to be changing number. Okay, the second part of the question, let me try and find it, is, so there's 2 marks for that. Write the procedure call which will replace line 2 of the pseudocode in part D. So part D is here. There's a previous question just before we did E. So write the line that will act as the function call. Okay. So at the moment in line 2 we're inputting chosen column number. We're going to replace this with our function call. Okay, so it's a similar thing. So the answer for this is going to be our first answer was player is passed by number was passed by reference. Now the answer to the second part, the function call, the function is going to be, if we look back at the paper in a moment, the name of it was get column, okay, and the variables that we were going to pass to the function were next, player, and then chosen column number. make sure that you are using the correct naming conventions. Okay, so we've got camel case here. Okay, no spaces obviously. So 2 marks for that. So that was get column using next player and chosen column number. Okay, so in this one we had player and we had character, right? Up here it's slightly different, so we're using the same procedure, get column, but here we've got next player and chosen column number. Okay, the program has stored the variable next player for A or B to show whose turn it is next. Okay, so just to finish, that was parameters, parameter passing, and we're looking at Winter 14, Paper 2, version